Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Hello, welcome to Legends in Leadership. I'm your host, Jason Smith with the Carrington Group. I'm joined by my co-host today, Tyler Tallman, a fellow family officer and partner with the Carrington Group. Tyler, show number 37. Are you excited about our guest today as I am?
Excited about our guest today and excited that you're able to join us coming from the beach on a little family vacation.
That's right. I'm in Rockport, Texas, along the Texas coast, enjoying some family time on the beach and some fishing and gearing up for the start of the school year in a couple of weeks. So some last minute summer fun here.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to the show today.
Yeah, and as we do every week, we're going to kick things off with our leadership trivia question. Tyler, what do you have for us today?
So last weekend, America celebrated Moon Day. It was the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, the first humans walking on the surface of the moon. We all know the names, of course, astronauts like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins and Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom, but there's one name that few people know about who played a significant role in the success of NASA's space program. Today's legendary leader was born on a farm in Wisconsin that had no electricity and no indoor plumbing. When World War II broke out, he found himself learning how to be a pilot. He became a decorated bomber pilot, and after the war, he went on to work for Boeing as an aeronautical engineer. But his love for flying soon led him to sign up to be a test pilot. When NASA started looking for astronauts, this leader was selected as one of the original NASA Mercury 7 astronauts, but unfortunately, an irregular heart rhythm grounded him from that Mercury program. But he overcame that disappointment to become NASA's first chief of the astronaut office and was responsible for all NASA's crew assignments. His unique role was to be a bridge between the strong personalities that made up the astronaut crew and the administrators who made the space program work. Because he was one of them, he earned the respect of his fellow astronauts and played a critical role in the amazing success that NASA experienced in space. So, who was this legendary leader? We'll be back at the end of today's program with that answer.
Great. I'm enjoying the moon theme we have going on. Been fascinating to learn many of the behind-the-scenes stories that went into that incredible feat.
I agree.
Our guest today, very excited to have Perla Tamez on our show. She's a visionary serial entrepreneur, speech pathologist, and public speaker. For the last decade, she has dedicated her life's work to empowering others to unlock their truest potential. From her thriving outpatient pediatric clinic to her advocacy work for healthcare and children's rights policies, this powerhouse is only at the beginning of creating her legacy. Her story begins in the small town of Hidalgo, Texas, where Perla learned at a very young age to run fiercely in the direction of her dreams. She graduated high school with 52 college hours, and at the impressive age of 21, she founded her first outpatient pediatric clinic, which over the last 11 years has grown to one of the largest providers in South Texas. In 2014, Perla's unmatched and innovative talent for business was honored as she received the Small Business Administration Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in Region 6, representing Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Today, she is committed to sharing her hard-earned knowledge and experience with others to equip them to become the best they can be. And we are excited to have her on the show and help her share that knowledge. So welcome, and I appreciate you being with us today, Perla.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for hosting me this morning. I'm very excited to share all my life experiences.
Well, yeah, so many questions come to mind as I read through your bio and read a little bit from the Inspired Latina material that you participated in. But really the first question that came to mind for me is, what inspirations or key people in your life did you have early on that helped set such a tremendous fire and motivation in your life?
So, as I say, my experience and career started early on. I remember being as young as 7 years old and helping my mother and father in their shoe store, which was opened in the border town of Hidalgo, which is the border town of Mexico, right? And so I would come to work with my mother after school, and she'd help me, put boxes away, put shoes on display, put them away at the end of the day, helping the other employees, sweep, clean, organize. And so little did she know that she was creating my life's, business skills at that early age. And so definitely my mother and father have been they've been my backbone in creating the leader I am now, and always having a humble heart to getting to know those around you and empowering the people that work with you as collaborators. I don't consider myself to be a boss. I consider myself to be a leader, because without my people, I'm nothing. I can create all day long, but if I don't know how to work well with others, how to communicate with others, and make them join in my vision and our goal, because it's for everybody, then I wouldn't be, as successful as I have been. And not only that, to be able to say and own success, you've got to be able to work and fight through your trials and tribulations, right? And that's where becoming the leader is. How many times have you fallen and gone back up?
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, right?
Oh, no.
In your parents' example, are there any examples that come to mind of times that they experienced those roadblocks or those setbacks, and how did you observe them overcoming that?
So I remember accompanying my mom. My mom, to me, she's gorgeous, right? And now she's close to 60, but she's very beautiful and looks, very elegant and sophisticated. She has like an air of like a lady D, her short blonde hair, and she dressed in these conservative suits, right? And I remember accompanying one day her to the bank, and she had this bank meeting regarding a loan for her dry cleaner store expansion. And I remember she was so excited and so pepped. The loan had been approved, and they were gonna add like 2 huge, monstrous dry cleaning machines. Those machines are like as big as a room, right? Yeah. And so I remember her being called by one of the stores, and the mechanic called her and said, "Miss Tamez, a machine broke down. Can you come help us?" And so there goes my mom. I'm like, "Wait a minute, where are we going?" She's like, "We're going to the dry cleaners. We're going to the warehouse." And I said, "What are you gonna do?" She's like, "I'm gonna fix the machine." And so my mother rolled up her sleeves of this fancy beige conservative suit, right, in her little hair, and she rolled up her sleeve, and then like 30 minutes later she was under the machine with like the knobs. And I said, "Mother, what are you doing?" She was like, "Nobody knows these machines like me," right? And I remember her coming out, her hands were filthy dirty of oil. And that's what it takes, when you've got to learn to slide, glide, and duck all at once. You've got to be able to do it as a business owner. That was a huge lesson for me. I said, my mom, she looks so pristine this morning, so amazing. She held this business meeting with these bankers, and then she had to roll up her sleeve and hit the ground and fix the machine, right? I mean, if the machine doesn't work, there's no revenue to generate today. And so that's what it takes. And those are the kinds of things that I humbly learned from my mother and father. And you start from the bottom. No matter how high you get, you always have to be able to come back to the bottom and make it work, because nobody knows how it was built but you. Right?
So I'm curious about that. So as you reflect on your journey, and you remember these times with your mom and her rolling up her sleeves and doing what she's got to do to be successful, how have you applied that? What are some of the stumbling blocks or the hurdles that you've had to get over? And I imagine oftentimes you reflect on that story. So talk a little bit about some of the hurdles you've had to get over and how you've been able to succeed in that way.
And so I consider myself a chameleon, right? Pearl the chameleon, because I'll just change depending on the environment. And so when I decided to open up my company, I was 20 years old. I was working as a speech-language pathology assistant in a clinic in McAllen, Texas, and I was treating patients, right? And so I had the fortune to start with this company that was barely starting their business in an outpatient pediatric clinic. So thanks to my ex-boss, Bobby, he let me see firsthand compliance and how the business works, right? And he always let me provide input. And so when I decided to open up my company, I said, I'm going to open up a company. And then I was like, oh my God, I already put it out there. Now I've got to commit to my word. And so when I connected my first business line, I told my mom, she was like, oh, easy, daughter, I'll connect that in your room. So in my room, in my little, I was probably like 500 square foot room, I connected my first business line. And then I remember going back to Hidalgo, and I knocked on 2 doors of families that I knew from when I used to live there that owned daycare centers. And that's where I decided to first offer the services. Then from there, 9 months later, I said, I'm ready to open up 2 actual facilities, right? And they were each 3,000 feet. My father said, why would you want to open up 2 facilities at once? And I said, because that's where the need is at. And I just want to make a big splash. And, children need of these services. I'm here to rehabilitate. And by that time, I already had therapists working for me. And so I needed a bank loan, right? And I needed funding. And I remember going to 5 local banks, and they all said no. Mm-hmm. And I was heartbroken, but every time they tell me no, they're like, ma'am, you're only 21 years old. You don't have credit history. You have a job. Yeah, you have a company, but you haven't, we need 3 years of tax returns, blah, 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 blah. And so they would tell me no. And every time they would tell me no, I'd be like, okay, maybe I didn't have the power of convincement, right? Maybe my business plan needed to get, become a lot more strategic. Maybe I need to consider the locations. So I was always looking for that, whatever no it came with, whatever that no came with, I'd use it as constructive feedback to better my pitch. Right? So I needed funding. And so finally the last bank, the 6th bank, and at that time it was Texas State Bank. This is now BBVA Compass. And the lady that ended up giving me the loan was a banker that's still very close and dear to me, and she gave my mom a loan years ago, and my mom ended up co-signing me. But that's, I said, Mom, why didn't you co-sign me at the beginning? She was like, because you had to just be better at it, Perla, and you had to be told no and have that door shut with you, and I had to see you come home and have, build up strength of you being told no and that you couldn't do it. And then eventually I saw you very prepared and very ready for this, so now I'm co-signing you. And I said, wow. So those are the life lessons, and that's how I've been built. It hasn't been easy.
I remember as a kid, I came from an entrepreneurial family too, and so I always got drugged to the office, and always these experiences of messing with the Airborne Express envelopes or the FedEx envelopes and all these different things, and trying to learn that way. But as you look back now, and your parents seem like such amazing people, and I think this is great for parents that are listening to this show to say, what are the 2 or 3 things, if you said I could put them in a bullet point, that your parents taught you that set you up? How would you define those?
So number 1 is be humble, right? You never know everything, never. So always seek mentorship and advice at all times. Number 2, embrace problems. Where the problem is, that's where the best lesson will be. Money can't buy that kind of lesson, right? So embrace a problem. And number 3, know your goals and execute them, right? And pave the way to execute your goal. Know where you want to be. If you want to get to the moon, that's fine. Let's get to the moon, because I will assure you one thing. If you were on Earth and you want to be in the moon in 10 years, you will always be working towards that. And when you look back 5 years and you're not at the moon yet, you will be somewhere where you weren't 5 years ago, right? And so always know where you're going. Pinpoint that.
The power of intent.
Oh yes,
yeah.
At all times.
I'm curious about the recognitions that you've received. I'm sure the 2014 Small Business Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award is one that's highlighted in your bio, but probably one of many. How does recognition play into your own assessment of where you are, where you want to be, and how does it also help you to help others in receiving these regional and national awards?
Well, definitely. An award is kind of comes in a plaque, right, and says, we commend you and we recognize you. At that time, it was the SBA's first time ever to give that type of award in South Texas year to date. And I also received a commendment letter from DC, right? And so putting all of that in an award, in a plaque, just so nicely put and something small is like years of trials and tribulations, right? And being able to say, I made it work, right? You know, I've been doing something right, even though, you know, I've fallen and gone back up. And sometimes, you know, you measure success, you know, well, people measure success professionally, emotionally, financially, right? And that is one measure of putting, you know, your years, seconds, minutes, thousands of days, you know, in a plaque, right? And that you can put up in your wall and say, you know what, if I went through those 7 years and I made it to that success, given these trials and tribulations that I went to, that will always give you, you know, that memory of when you're having a difficult time, you know, you look at that award and you're like, no, I made it. You know, remember that when you got that award, you'd lived 2012 was a crazy, drastic year, and you made it. So, you know, keep on going. And so awards give you that kind of tangible, intangible kind of gold nugget, right?
Yeah, maybe when you're at your lowest, you can always look back up and go, I did something right. I did something right.
With your award, like I'm gonna make it another day, you know. Life of an entrepreneur is not easy, you know, and fear is always there. You've got to sleep with fear and adversity every single night.
I'm curious a little bit about your leadership influence with your employees, and you know, you have a vibrant personality. You seem like you'd be somebody very fun to work with, but you're also fiery in a way that I can see you being very driven and very focused. And so, talk a little bit about your approach working with employees and helping them grow to become leaders themselves.
So definitely, I've always said this. Without my employees, without my contract labor therapist, without my nurses, I'm nothing, right? Because I'm a dreamer, and I like to lead, and I like to embrace, right? But you have to be able to communicate to your soldiers, right? To the army of people that back you up. There's no leader that has become and conquered a country without having, you know, a very well put together group of people holding them back. And so communication is key in my organization. Communication, respect, and love, believe it or not, are three key factors in my organization. And so I start off with respect. When you respect one another, right? You respect one another's abilities, and you're able to recognize what every single person brings to the table and how you need them to finish your task, your day, your week, and your month, and your year successfully, right? And so I've always told my people, I will walk in this clinic and I will pick up trash just like anybody else, right? Because if that piece of trash affects me, it's gonna affect the therapist. If a patient's mom comes in and says, that's a dirty clinic, right? I have my office, but if that affects your clinic's appearance, right? So we all have to participate in making our company successful. And if you respect, then you have harmony, right? And then love for one another is so important because we're all humans, right? And we all make, you know, mistakes, right? So if you love humanity in general, then you respect that people, you know, are like I tell my employees, you're in this box and you're a Jello. As long as you don't cross this box, I'm okay. If today you woke up and you had a bad day because, you know, your son got in a fight at school, or your husband didn't come home, or your wife, you know, made you upset, look, take the day off. I prefer that you fix this issue at home than to come to the office or one of the clinics or one of the offices, whatever that business is, and you know, carry that energy, right? And maybe you open the door and you're like, please move, right? And you had nothing to tell Taylor about that, right? But Taylor might take it personal. He'd be like, oh my God, she doesn't like me. And that will slowly pile up, and by the time you know it, a week later, Tyler is telling off Perla because she pushed him a week ago, and Perla was just upset because her husband didn't come home yesterday, right? And so I treat my employees literally, you know, like family. If you're having a bad day, girlfriend, stay home, you know, shape up, get better, and come home, come to work tomorrow with the best attitude
That's right.
you could have.
Come back and give me your best.
Because come back and give me your best, because if yesterday you came and you really didn't feel like coming, guess what? Everybody around you is going to feel it. And that animosity, it's like creating a little bubble, right? So if I'm a therapist and Perla didn't come to work because she felt sick, embrace her. Love Perla. She's not having a good day. So take care of her patients. Take care of her while she's gone. Tomorrow she's going to come back. And today it might be for her, but tomorrow it's going to be for you. You just never know, right? And so creating respect and love in the workplace is so important. And then embracing whatever problems come that day. Fix it as a team. It's not her problem. It's not your problem. It's all of us' problem. Because whatever this company generates is a check that you take home for your family, your family, your family, your family.
Right.
This place, I tell them, when it's not my office, doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. You own it. So any question, comment, concern, or suggestion, you pick up the phone no matter what time, and you call me and you text me and you let me know, and we fix it. Because this is your place. Own it, right? And so that's the way I've carried on my companies and my employees. And I have a very low turnaround of staff. My people stay with me through thick and thin, literally. And in healthcare, healthcare has very highs and very lows. And we deal with budgets, we deal with state budgets, and we deal with insurances all day long. Sometimes they pay you and sometimes they don't pay you. And sometimes there's issues with claims, and there's massive rate reductions. When it comes to therapy in particular, we've had massive rate reductions. I can tell you from 2011 to year to date, we've had an 80% rate reduction of services of what we used to get paid. 80%. And so I remember having, crisis meetings with my staff, and you guys, listen, this is a state budget reduction, right? The money was really, really good, and it's about to get really, really bad. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Why do you do what you do? Do you do it for the money, or you do it for the passion? Are you here to rehabilitate lives, or do you do it to take a paycheck home? And I'd have, some eyes looking at me, and I said, if you're doing it for the passion, which is why you're here, always do what you do for a passion. You will stick through this because it'll come around.
The paycheck will come back around, yeah.
The paycheck will come back around, but your passion, okay, it's there. It will always be there, no matter what. It will always be there. So if you do it to make a child, rehabilitate, and become meet a functional age of developmental delay, you're going to do it. But if you're there for the extra $10, guess what? Find another job now, because you're going to be frustrated when the rate reduction comes. And when you're frustrated when the rate reduction comes, everybody in the clinic is going to feel it. So if we all stick to our passion, we will, no matter what happens outside of here, no matter how many rate reductions comes, this temple, which is the clinic, which is where kids come to get rehabilitated for a better future, will still be a happy place, and that's what matters, right? And so communication is key, and from managers to employees to everybody, we all have a hearsay in my company.
And I'm curious, with the number of generations now that are working in the same workforce, did you get any pushback, or I'm curious about maybe the first one or two times someone actually did call you and say, Perla, I'm not feeling it today, and took that leap of faith to believe that you actually mean it's okay to do that?
Yeah, totally. I just got a text yesterday, right? One of my therapists called me. One of the assistant managers kind of had a little emotional breakdown about her clinic's productivity, right, and her attendance, and so she gets pressure from the higher manager in command. And I said, you tell her she needs to text me, and we're gonna fix it, right? If she doesn't verbalize what she's feeling, she's never gonna put it out there. I can't read minds, I can't read the minds of over 100 people, and so she's gotta tell me so that we can fix it, right? Sure enough, she sent me a text, and it actually became something else, right? Because sometimes things boil up, and it's kind of like the thread goes in a little bit deeper, and it ends up being something else, and it's not even the pressure of work, right? And so a lot of times you have to hear out your people. It might be something emotional, and you can help them out of that.
I want to shift gears just a little bit, Jason, and talk with Perla a little bit about culture today in America. You're a successful, vibrant leader, Latino leader. It's an interesting world that we're living in right now, and so I'm really interested in hearing from you. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing leaders going forward in our current society and our current culture, and kind of the direction that we're headed?
And so I see in a lot of people that have potential to be great leaders and entrepreneurs that they are afraid of failure, right? Failure and rejection. So they have this amazing idea. They've got all the ducks in line. They just can't push forward. Or the company is already, it already has revenue. They've got 10 employees and they don't want to take it to the next level when they have something amazing that is in demand, right? They've got a great supply for a great demand. And so it's that they're not embracing failure. And I have found out to fall in love with failure. Where there's failure and where it kind of gives me challenge, I'm going to like creep on it and I'll knock the door and, tell me more, right? And I don't want to wait to fail in a year. I want to fail now so that I can kind of vet my strategy and I can vet my team and I can vet my operations, right? And so taking that leap of faith into the unknown is what I think that entrepreneurs are lacking, and especially the Latino culture out there. They're even yet more afraid. Some of Latinos, do have a history that a lot of born U.S. people didn't live, right? A lot of Latino people that have, migrated into the States, they already come from a troubled past, right? Getting here, right? And so once they're here, they want to safeguard any kind of movement that they do so it doesn't put any future in jeopardy, right? But a lot of these people have great ideas, have great items, great services, and they're afraid to take that leap of faith. And basically, behind the faith lays the gold. That's the way I see it. And so no matter what challenge it is, where there's a will, there's a way. You tell me no 20 times, that's fine. I'll keep on looking. We're 7 billion people in this world. You tell me no, you tell me no. There's 6.999 billion people. Well, one of them is going to tell me yes, right? You just got to keep on knocking and just never take no for an answer. If you believe something with passion, you're doing it with love, you're doing it with a good heart, there's no reason why not to do it, right? And so wherever there's a will, resources will come. You make your own opportunities.
Sure. Great stuff. As we wrap up the show today, one of the things that we like to hear from leaders is, what is a piece of literature or a podcast or something that has been really impactful from you from a leadership standpoint that you've read or been exposed to?
So I'm going to share 2 books, right? The Normal is, I guess, a New York bestseller, like I don't know how many times, but The Law of Attraction. It's as simple as that. Focus on what you want and stick to it, right? And when you take that leap, you're already started in your way there. And then your way is going to come with different paths, and you're going to, you want to get to Dallas, I came in from Houston, you take a right, and then you take a left. Oh, no, the GPS says that this is a shortcut. And so that's the way, the law of attraction is. You set the goal, and then turn on your GPS and get there, and whatever other paths and alternatives come to get there quicker, you get there. And then the other one is the one thing, right? Which is, again, focusing on the one thing. You want to get to the moon. Nobody will take that away from you. You can't buy that idea, right? It's not like you go to Target and you're like, can you swipe a get to the moon trip? You can't do that, right? And so you kind of identify it. I want to get to the moon. Okay, well, how do I get to the moon? Well, you start looking for YouTube videos, you ask Google, you go to college, you sign up to the university, and you will one day get to the moon. There's no timeline, right, on when you want to get to the moon, unless you set one. But if you want to get to the moon, I want to go to the moon one day, for reals. I want to take one of those trips, and I'll be in the moon. Right now, that's kind of like in my long-term goals. But as soon as I'm done with some of these short-term goals, that will be one of my goals, and then I'll be like, by 45, I will go on one of those trips. and then you just focus on that, and you're just driven, right?
One more question.
Sure.
What's your one thing? If you look at your business,
Right now?
what are you pushing forward? What's the one thing that you want to accomplish in your life?
So I'm so excited to share that, and that's a great question. And I'm so dynamic, right? One of my companies is called Dynamic Children because I'm like a dynamic child, and and people know when I walk into my clinic, I'm like, everybody turn off the lights. Y'all don't pay the light bill. The company does. Turn out all the lights. People need to be alive, right? And so it's been guys, for reals. It's not even 3 months where I it was in my long-term goals. I want to be a motivational speaker, and I wanted to write a book. And so I decided that I was content professionally, financially, well-being, and it was time to ignite the motors on my motivational speaking career and my book. It's not even been 3 months, and I put it out to the world. And then when I speak and I commit myself, my word to me is worth more than gold. Like once I say something, rain or shine, I've got to do it because that's my word. It's my curriculum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I look on paper. It's what people see of me, right? And so it's not even been 3 months, and I am already going to be in 6 countries with speaking engagements. Can you believe that? I am so excited. And then I'm participating in the Today's Inspire Latina that's going to publish in Europe, right? And I wrote my chapter like no kidding, like in 3 hours, right? I mean, it's ingrained in me, how my trials and tribulations of when I started, with my humble beginnings. And then I've now started my book that I'm not going to disclose the name, but it's going to be a global movement, Tyler. Listen to that. It is a global movement, and I'm going to be in all the continents, embracing people all over the world, overcoming no matter, we all have love. My blood and your blood are red. And yours, Jason?
Yep.
And so we've got the heart in the same place, and we're all made of love, right? So there's no reason why we shouldn't unite as one powerful humanity, disregarding race, color, gender, community, political view, country, continent, whatever. We're all brothers and sisters, and there is no better Google than the Human Network. If I share my path and my experience, and you grab 2-3 things from that, and you take it, and you take another 2-3 points, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we like to share our knowledge. Knowledge is wealth.
So when you have your book name, the launch, maybe you can launch it on Legends in Leadership.
Woo! I'd love to, guys. And it's going to be soon. I'm telling you, this is just going way too fast. The universe
I think if you give us a few months, Perla might be our trivia one week for a Legend in Leadership trivia question. We'll have to make around
I'm
Perla.
telling you, I just feel it. And it just, great people come. You put it out there. The universe has faith in you when you do it with a good heart and with love and passion. And that's what you love to do. Magic happens. The angels, God, whoever the Almighty you believe in, it just all comes to play. And like right now I just have like these beautiful butterflies I love to feel, Can you feel?
I can feel the energy.
Exciting. I'm so excited. I hope everybody out there is excited too.
Yeah. It has been great having you, Jason. I'll send it back over to you to wrap up the show today.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been a pleasure, Perla, having you on, and we appreciate your time and the nuggets and advice that you shared with us today. Very powerful. So look forward to keeping up with you and seeing you continue to execute on this amazing journey.
I'm excited, guys. Thank you so much for sharing this time. This is an amazing podcast setup. This is like 5 stars, podcast setup. I love it, and I'm looking forward to you all continued success on your podcast, and I'll be back.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Tyler, now we're ready for the answer to our trivia question for today.
Well, the astronaut with a bad heart who became the leader of his fellow astronauts was Deke Slayton. So I did not know that one. Even when I was reading it this morning, getting ready for the show, I was not familiar with that name. So don't forget about him in Apollo 11.
Well, that's a wrap for today's Legends in Leadership podcast. Want to wish you a good day, and remember this: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by the Carrington Group. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. To learn more about the Carrington Group, visit their website at www.carringtonfo.com or Google Carrington Group, Dallas, Texas. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphaned youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. To learn more about ISF, visit their website at isfsite.org or Google International Student Foundation to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.